everybody, and welcome to this next edition of Getting to Know Grey 17. If you missed our last episode, you can catch it in the links below, where I interviewed Emily, one of the co-hosts of the Grey 17 podcast. This is something I'm going to keep doing until I interview all of the hosts to not only get to know them a little bit better myself, but also allow you, the audience, to get to know us better too. So my name is John, and with me is
Nicole.
Great. So Nicole, thank you for doing this. Last time it was very fun. I have known you quite a bit longer than Emily, so this conversation will be a little bit different. But why don't we start and allow you to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Nicole. I am on the Grey 17 podcast. I'm one of the newbies. And let's see, I live in Northern Illinois. I'm engaged. I have 3 cats. Yeah, that's pretty much who I am, I guess, in a nutshell.
All right. So let's start with same thing I asked Emily. So how did you hear about the Grey 17 podcast and what made you want to be a part of it?
So Scott had posted that he was looking for people to join a podcast with him. And one of the reasons why I wanted to join it was, one, I thought it would be fun to do something that's completely out of my comfort zone, like watching a sci-fi show and joining this world that I'm unfamiliar with. And 2, I actually am a broadcaster by trade. So a podcast is something I've always wanted to do. And I thought it'd be a really good opportunity for me to kind of see, some of the things I don't know. Like I can, put together a show, I can interview, I can talk, I can edit, I can do all those things. But there's a lot of things I don't know about the podcasting world, like how do you get posted on Anchor? How do you do this or that? So I thought it'd be a good learning experience for me too, as well as exposing me to something that I'm just not familiar with. And maybe I'll find something new that I like. So that's kind of why I decided to join.
Well, you said a bunch of stuff there that I want to get back to and cover. But one of the things was, famously, I think on our show, you're one of the ones who's not a sci-fi person.
Yeah.
So I assume you had not heard of Babylon 5 before you started this, yeah?
No, I mean, the closest thing I heard to it was I've heard of Battlestar Galactica, but only because Scott used to host these epic game nights and he had a Battlestar Galactica board game that we used to play all the time. And I somehow ended up being the Cylon, which was the bad person. But
Spoilers.
Yeah, no, sorry, but I thought that's what he was talking about when I originally heard Babylon 5. I was like, oh, the game we used to play. He's like, no, it's not the same thing. I'm like, really? So I'd never heard of Babylon 5 before at all.
Do you know, it's hilarious how many people even now, when I'm like, oh, I have this podcast, and like, oh, what is it? And I go, oh, Babylon 5. And they go, oh, Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, I did it.
Everyone says it. I have not met a person or even like had friends that knew Babylon 5 off the top, which says nothing about the show. I've come to love it. So it's not an indictment on Babylon 5, but I think so many people at least know Battlestar Galactica. Even if you're an Office fan and that very famous cold open, Bears beats Battlestar Galactica, I think people just know that title. So
yeah. And what's funny is when we started doing the podcast, a bunch of people that I knew came out of the woodwork and were like, I love Babylon 5. Like a guy that I knew in high school, that I, talked to on Facebook here and there. He was like, oh my God, I love Babylon 5. He watched it when it came out. So I thought that was pretty cool that like, there's people I've literally had in my life for all these years that were actual fans of it, that liked it. So I was like, dang, what did I miss? So now I'm finding out.
Just sitting on a gem, not letting anybody know. Yeah. Well, one of the things we like to do too is, so I mentioned at the top that I've known you for a while, but why don't you walk us through how you know the rest of the hosts before you joined?
So I met Scott through Model Illinois Government. Obviously, a bunch of you guys all went to Western, and I went to UIS, and we all got to know each other through there. Jessi was the same, Justin, Kevin, we all were in MIG together. So that's really how I know you guys, through that college organization, and then just shenanigans afterwards. That was the introduction to the door, and then the shenanigans ensued after. Blake as well too. And then Mike and Emily I met through the podcast, and actually Emily and I got together over the summer and went to a pumpkin patch and like spent the day hanging out, and we realized that we had a lot in common. So it was pretty cool to get to know her on a more personal level, because her and Mike and Scott have known each other since high school. So, obviously they're all a little bit more tight knit, but I feel like it was really cool to get to know them too. And somehow we all work in our dysfunction. So, but you and I specifically have had some pretty crazy times together. And I gotta say, uh, we'll keep that to ourselves and not scare the listeners and the viewers.
Maybe we'll share some stories at some time, but for now, I think we want people to like us. And I don't know what the statute of limitations is on some of that, so let's let's keep it between us for now. So you mentioned being on radio, so maybe want to tell us a little bit about how you got into that, because that's a pretty interesting gig, and it's an even more interesting gig when you talk about podcasting, because you talk for a living. Yeah. So I should just let you do this whole interview yourself. Why am I even here?
Yeah, I mean, really, no. I actually, I've wanted to do radio my whole life. When I was a little kid, you know how you'd get like a toy that would have a big box? Well, I would sit behind the box and do radio shows for my parents. And then I had my dad cut a window like it was a TV, and I would do newscasts. So I'd be 7 years old doing radio shows and newscasts for my parents. So growing up in Chicago, we had amazing radio in the 90s, and there was specific people that I just wanted to be. I would listen to them, I'd record them, I'd emulate them. And then finally, when I got to my community college, they had a community radio station. It was the first thing I signed up for before I even signed up for my regular classes. And all you really had to do was take this one semester class that didn't count as credit and learn all the rules and how to work everything. And then you got a show. And I ended up at 18 years old with 3 shows and being the assistant station manager. And I just dove in and I learned as much as I could, and I practiced, and I did that from 1999 to 2005, because you didn't have to be a student to be on the air there as long as you took that class. So there was actually a guy who's still on the air there, who was there for like 25 years with this iconic jazz show that people from all over listen to. So so I did that. And then when I moved to Springfield, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to give up my show. I did online radio for a while on this online station. So I did a show there a couple nights a week. So I was able to kind of still practice. And then finally, in the beginning of 2006, I got my first actual paying radio gig. And I was just a voice tracker, which means you pre-record your show twice a week, part-time. And then they loved me so much, they ended up hiring me full-time and promoting me. And since then, I've worked in, I would say probably 8 different formats. I've worked in Springfield, Decatur, back to Springfield, DeKalb, Chicago, and then now I'm back in DeKalb. So I've basically worked all over Illinois. I've done many, many formats, and I really have learned everything you can learn about radio. I can edit, I can create commercials, I can do voiceovers, I could do anything really. And I actually, one of the skills I just learned was how to program a station. So now I know how to do all the back end programming work. So really at this stage in my career, I mean, I've literally been doing this from 1999 to now. And I think I've done every air shift, every position. So yeah, it's just something I love. And, for a while I was part-time working in offices, and it just didn't, those jobs were fine. They were nice corporate jobs, but it just didn't make me happy, So now that I'm back doing it full time, it really makes me happy. And I'm currently on in 3 cities. So it's pretty crazy. Next step, I'll be taking over the world.
I have no doubt about it. I have no doubt about it. In fact, is there any place our fans, maybe can they check you out online? Is there any way they can listen to you if they
Sure. I mean, if they want to, I do a morning show on 94.9 WDKB in DeKalb. I do afternoons from 4 to 8 p.m. on WNNS in Springfield, which is new. So I get to haunt all of my enemies and ex-boyfriends with my voice. It's pretty fun. So, and then I do a show in Rockford, Illinois on 95.3 The Bull on Sundays. So and I do everything from, I mean, this is a trade secret, but I do everything from my home studio in DeKalb, and I can really record from anywhere, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. you mentioned we've known each other for a long time. And I remember at first you're like, oh yeah, I'm in the radio. And I was like, oh, you're always like a little skeptical. Like, what does that mean? Like, can
Yeah.
I listen to you? And then through the years, you're like, oh, now I'm on this, now I'm on this. And I'm like, damn girl, like killing it, killing it.
Yeah. And it's crazy because my ultimate dream was to be on the air in Chicago. And I did. I was on the air in Chicago for almost 7 years. But when the pandemic hit, I got furloughed. And unfortunately, they weren't able to have me back. And then I was heartbroken, but then I ended up getting a full-time gig. And now I got promoted to an assistant program director. So I'm well on my way to moving up the ladder. I just, as sad as I was to not be on in Chicago anymore, I'm so happy to be doing what I'm doing now, because not only my full time, but like I've already been promoted in a year and I'm really involved in the community. So I do a lot of like, volunteer work and outside things, in my community, which I honestly feel like making a bigger impact and helping others, to me, is a little bit more rewarding than having the guts and the glory of like, oh, I'm on in market number 3, which I am. It's on my resume. Nobody could take that away.
Right.
But also, like, I feel it's a lot more fulfilling to be able to really put your roots down somewhere and make a difference. And that's what I'm able to do now while doing what I love.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. And in
yeah.
fact, so I'd ask you, when you're not working, what do you do? Most people's answer is something they love. So you already do that for a job,
Yeah.
which is incredible. But when you're not on the radio, what do you like to do? What hobbies do you got?
So I love reading, which, I'm a nerd, so that makes sense. I'm a nerd in a different way than you are, particularly. So, I don't know. I just honestly, I really like to go out when I can. Go have a few drinks, watch live music. Concerts are my favorite thing. I do volunteer work outside of work. Just honestly, like if there's a good time to be had and there's laughs to be had, I'm there. I'm pretty much open to anything. I'm not really athletic or sporty. So if you want me to go like run a 5K or you want me to go axe throwing, I'd probably hurt myself. But if you want to go sit somewhere and have some drinks and watch some live music, I'm your girl. Maybe some comedy. That's what's up,
Yeah, I know. I'll say one of the things I know every time either I see, a message you send or a snap or a Facebook. I mean, I think you go to more live music shows than almost anyone I know. So in that vein, you watch a lot of music, but when it's your turn with the mic, what's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, this is good. Good question. Okay. So recently it's been You Ought to Know by Alanis Morissette. There's got a lot of anger inside me. I want to get out,
Yeah.
I've been known to do Jump Around by House of Pain.
Good one.
That's a banger. And then I've also been known to do Love Shack with a partner or two.
Okay.
And then Friends in Low Places. That's a great karaoke song. I want to do the songs that are going to get people to sing along and join. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with a little Garth or a little Love Shack, So.
And I noticed all of your songs are upbeat. So since you, like me, have a love of karaoke, what are your thoughts on the people who do the sad songs?
Oh, they just need a hug, honestly. A hug, maybe a shot of tequila. One of the things that I did last year was I came up with the idea of having a karaoke for a cause fundraiser. And me and my 2 friends, we planned a fundraiser based around karaoke, and it was a hit. We had a blast. So I really do like karaoke, and there was no sad songs that night.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's just, I get it. People like, those songs are moving and they like them, but
sure,
when you're in a karaoke environment, it's usually a party,
right,
like a happier atmosphere. So you want to keep it going. You can't have somebody sing Love Shack and then you come in with, some sad shit. It's like, well,
I think the worst is Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow Picture, because when that song came out, anytime you went to karaoke, 2 people who could not sing for shit were doing that song,
Yeah.
So there are definitely some downer songs I do not like to hear.
So you mentioned some cats, so you got some pets.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you. If your pets could talk, what do you think they'd say about you?
Oh, they would say I'm ridiculous. They would probably curse at me. They would probably be like, come on, get up and make us dinner, get us our food. They would be hella demanding. And actually, we've talked about what we think our cats' voices are. And just based on their personalities, I think that our cats are the mean girls. So like the one cat, she's really pretty, but she's really mean and bitchy. So she would definitely be Oh God, what is the girl's name? Now I'm drawing a
Regina?
blank. Yeah, she'd be the Regina George. My one cat, she's kind of ditzy and clumsy, but very sweet. She would definitely be Karen. And then the other cat, she would definitely be the Katie, because she's kind of like the fuck are you people doing over here, cat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's really sweet and affectionate, but also she's kind of like, come on, like get it together. So I envision that is how they sound if they were talking.
Do you think you are the topic of conversation always?
Oh yeah, they're probably talking mad shit about me.
Yeah. I'm also, for those, so I said Regina, I am a fan of Mean Girls. Not a fan of
Yes.
Man. It's fantastic. Fantastic.
Great movie.
Okay. So here's another one for you. So you've taken over the world with your radio. It is now time for the Nicole biopic. What actor is playing Nicole?
Probably Reese Witherspoon, just because she's amazing. She can do anything. And I have many, many moments in my life where I'm like, all right, let me channel my inner Elle Woods, or let me channel my inner Melanie Carmichael. Like, so I feel like she's kind of my go-to, like, okay, if I need a bad bitch moment, I think of her roles, and that's how I sometimes draw that inspiration. Yeah. So it would make sense if she played me.
That's a fantastic choice.
And we're also both very short, so it's very fitting.
That is true. I wasn't sure how much you wanted to say. You are very diminutive inside.
Yes, I am only 5'3". My fiance is 6'5". It's very entertaining for everybody.
It's something. All right. So Emily was also a reader. I'm a reader. It's not surprising. A lot of these circles, people like to read, which is a good thing. I asked her the same question. So if given the opportunity, though, what book would you write?
Honestly, I would probably write a story about taking tragedy and trauma in your life and learning from it and growing from that, and up, like rising up from it, because I've been through a lot medically. I have a heart condition. There has been a few times where I almost died, like, not to be dramatic or a downer, but it is true. Like, there's been a few times where I didn't know if I was going to make it. And that's not any bullshit. That's very, very true and honest. And it really changes your mind, your mindset. And a lot of things that I feel like I looked at before were like, for example, if I had a birthday party and 47 people came, but 3 didn't, I would focus on the 3 that didn't, as opposed to being grateful for the 47 that were there. After all that happened, now I'm so much more just grateful, and I look at things a lot different. I'm a lot more positive. Like, I don't let things bother me. I don't hold grudges. I don't hold on to stuff. Don't get it twisted. You fuck around, you're going to find out. But, like, it's just a totally different mindset. So for me, I feel like I would write a book about how do I take all of that and learn and grow from it, because regardless of what's happened in my life, I've always somehow got back up, and I don't even know where it comes from. And people ask me all the time, they're like, how do you do it? How do you keep going? And, like, even after my mom passed away, I tried to go back to work a week later, and everyone's like, no, you need to stay home. And like, I ended up getting so sick. I got this thing called cellulitis in my face. So the whole side of my face was like out to here. My eye was swollen shut. I like couldn't stand. And the day I was supposed to go back to work, that happened. And I had to take another 2 weeks off. And I literally was just in bed taking medication, sick for the first week. And I think that was my body's way of saying, you need to stop and you need to rest, because there was a couple months where it was just like, just on, like, all this stuff was happening with my mom. So, I feel like you really can take things in your life and you can either decide, am I going to let this define me, or am I going to let this fuel me? And I just really try to let it fuel me. So that's the kind of book I would write. And actually, that's kind of what I want to do for a podcast of my own one day, is have something a little uplifting and something where I talk to people who've been through stuff and how do they overcome it? Because I feel like that's a book, or that's a podcast, or that's a story that people need to hear sometimes, especially with the mental health crisis that's going on in the world right now. Mm-hmm. Like, when you are going through something, 97% of other people have either felt that or are going through it too, even though you think you're alone, and you're not. And I actually was at an event yesterday where we were talking to high school girls about things that stress them out. And a lot of the things they said are things that some of the adults still deal with on a daily basis. And the biggest thing is people don't talk about it. But if people were open and transparent about their struggles, it can really help other people. Sorry,
Yes.
as you can tell, I like to talk a lot, so I get a little long-winded. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's
You're
the book
good.
I would write.
You're good. It's a great book, and it's a great point. I think of it a lot, and I relate it to, in school they always say there's never a dumb question. Always ask the question, because if you're thinking it, like, somebody else is almost always thinking it.
Yeah.
And I have found that to be so true in my life in many facets. Where, I was in some advanced classes, and I was like, everyone else seems so smart. There's no way anyone else is. No, I got to be the only dumb in this class thinking this. And then I ask it, and then sure as shit, somebody else is like, oh yeah, I thought that too. Or they would have a follow-up, or like, clearly they also were thinking of it. But because for some various reasons, which we could spend a whole podcast talking about,
Sure.
people get self-conscious and not wanting to appear a certain way.
Yeah.
They don't want to appear damaged. And so I spent time in the military, and there's a whole other issue to talk about with mental health in the military. But
Yeah.
even at the time, I thought, man, it'd be really nice to talk to a therapist. But you do get worried that it will affect your career. You might be labeled a certain way. And a lot of guys take that when they leave the military, and they keep that and they hold on to that because they don't want to be weak. They don't want to show they have problems. They're not strong enough. They're not tough enough, right? Talk about toughness all the time with men, not even just in the military. But when I got out, I was like, I'm just going to do it. Thankfully, I had good health insurance.
Yeah.
But I've seen a therapist now for years, and I'm the same way. I'm a big believer, and I talk about it as much as I can. I mention as much as I can. I try to get family and friends to try it and to speak out. So I look forward to that book or that podcast.
One day maybe I'll actually write it. We'll see. Now you got me thinking.
Yeah. Well, listen, being on the radio, being a part of Gray 17 is dope. So I don't know if you want to switch places, but if you could switch places with anyone, past, present, anyone, dead or alive, for one day, who would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. If I could switch places with one person, I would say Madonna, but 80s Madonna, not plastic surgery Madonna. Because going back as a kid, I knew every word to every Madonna song. There was no reason I should have known the lyrics to those songs at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. But I did. I always loved Madonna growing up. But now, as a grown woman, listening back to her music from the 80s, she was so ahead of her time. And the things that she sang about are the things that all these girls are now singing about. And the woke culture, like girl power, women empowerment. And she was doing that. Her, Janet Jackson, even Paula Abdul, to an extent, they were doing that in the 80s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a list.
Right. So when I listen back to that now, I'm just like, damn, she knew what was up, all those years ago, before it was okay to talk about. So I would say I would probably switch place with late 80s Madonna, also because holy hell, her life had to be crazy. And just for one day, I would like to live that rock star life.
Yeah, I'm surprised then when you say karaoke. So your go-to is not any Madonna song, Like a Virgin? None of it? Material Girl? None of it?
I can do some Madonna, but I'm an alto, so I can't sing that high. And some of her notes, if you're going to sing Madonna and you don't do it right, just get the fuck out. You know what I mean? Okay. Okay. But I will say there is one Madonna song that I do like to do, which is Open Your Heart. And that's a really good one. Oh, and Express Yourself. That's an iconic song.
Classic. Yeah. Okay. So you interview people, you ask people lots of questions, but what's the one question you wish people would ask you more?
I was thinking about this because I don't really know if anyone ever asks me anything, well, oh, you're on the radio. Well, what does that entail? People think it just is, I talk behind a mic and press buttons, but there's a lot more that goes to it. But I guess honestly, I kind of wish people would every once in a while just ask me if I'm okay. You can ask me about my career. You can ask me about anything. I'm an open book. As you know, I'm talking way too much and being very open in this interview, but every once in a while, it would be nice if someone was just like, hey, how you doing? Are you doing okay? Because I feel like I'm always very much checking on people, and this is no shade to anybody.
Sure.
But I don't know, there's this meme I saw the other day that said, check on the strong people. And it's really true, because I feel like I'm that person where you'll never know if I'm going through something because I'll put on a happy face and smile and everything's great, but I might be dying inside. So
Yeah.
I guess every once in a while, just ask me if I'm doing okay.
Hey, Nicole, how you doing?
I'm doing great right now.
Well, that is good to hear.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's flip it though. What's a question that everyone asks that you wish they would ask less or wouldn't ask?
When is your wedding? Here's the thing. We are very happy. We are going to get married. It's just, we've had a lot of life circumstances that have come up, like when we started planning, my mom got sick and died, and then COVID happened and all these things happened. And, I lost my job, got a new job, we moved. So now we're finally at a point where we can really start planning again. But it's literally like people who barely even talk to me or I barely know will be like, oh, when's your wedding? And it's like, it just because we're not married on paper doesn't mean it's not a valid relationship. And I feel like sometimes some people feel like, oh, well, you have to take that step in order for it to be like legit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think people ask because it was me. I'm asking because I just know it's going to be an awesome time.
Oh, it is going to be. Yeah, it's going to be an epic. Party. Yeah, it's going to be an epic party. Trust me. But when it comes down to it, I have his debit card PIN number, so I really don't even need that piece of paper because I got all I need. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Nice. All right, a couple more here. We'll wrap it up. But what's something that most people dislike that you like?
Taylor Swift. Oh, wait. No. I read that wrong. I don't like Taylor Swift and a lot of people like her.
Okay.
So I answered that wrong. But something that I like that a lot of people dislike, that is a good question.
We'll come back. By the way, there's going to be a follow-up question, so we can stick with that. So you dislike Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Any particular reason?
She just annoys me. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know. I work in radio, so I'm just sick of her. Like everyone's like, oh my God, she's the greatest thing on the planet. I'm spending $1 million to go see her. That's great and all, but like, she's not like, she's talented, but like there's other people out there that I think, I don't know, maybe might be better or not as dramatic or not as fake seeming, or I don't know. There's so much hype and I just don't get it. I will say I have listened to her new album and it's pretty good so far, what I've heard, but I'm not one of those like total hardcore Swifties where I'm like, oh, like I'm not, I don't know. I just don't get the hype, but
I mean, that's fair. Different strokes, different folks.
Yeah.
But now in that same vein, so let's go back to it then. So what's something you do like that everyone's like, really? That?
Let me think. That's a really good question. What is something I really like that people think is lame, basically? Remember the show Jag?
Yes.
I love that show.
I think you and everybody over 65.
Yes. I love Jag. And the show New York Undercover has been on a lot lately. Okay. Those are two shows that are old, but specifically Jag. Back in the day, I went and bought all the box sets. So I literally have them all. I love that show. And everyone makes fun of me because I'm not old. But I don't care. You can say what you want. First of all, Jag brought us Mark Harmon, which brought us NCIS. Jag was before NCIS, and I loved NCIS too. So, yeah.
Is this your unofficial announcement that you're going to have a Jag podcast?
No, because nobody would listen because people who are fans of Jag probably can't figure out the internet. I'm just kidding.
You're probably not wrong.
I mean, but I do love that show.
Okay, so give me a favorite memory of Grey 17 for you so far.
I feel like my favorite memory so far is the live episode we did for the finale, like the end of season 1 recap. That was just so fun because I feel like it was a lot of fun, but also it gave us a moment to really recap what we just took in. And I think that was probably one of my favorite memories, but also some of my other favorite memories are the nicknames we've come up with for people and the shenanigans that happen behind the scenes that people don't always see. I laugh a lot whenever we record. So, I mean, poor Scott, we probably drive him crazy with his herding cats and editing, but we have a lot of fun. So
listen, it is comedy gold. I absolutely love it. And for all of you listening, if you're a Patreon member at a certain level, you can get all of that bonus content and hear us talking craziness and get the bloopers and the
some of the shit we say is wild.
It's something. It's something. All right. So what are you most looking forward to with the rest of Grey 17?
Honestly, yeah, I really want to find out what freaking happens. Like, I'm dying to know what the next things are. I want to know if Sinclair actually comes back like on a show, or if it's just going to be, video. I want to know, is Talia going to stay or leave? I want to know, is Garibaldi and Talia ever going to get together? Are Delenn and Sheridan going to smash? Like, I want to know all these things. So my red yarn is out, my tinfoil hat is on, and I am ready to watch this show. And they keep saying when it gets to season 3, it is on like Donkey Kong, and I am ready for it.
Is there anything like Grey 17 specific that you're looking forward to, or just to find out the answer so you can finally talk about them?
Well, so I can finally listen to Beyond the Rim would be nice. But I think Grey 17 related, I think looking forward to potentially doing some get-togethers with everybody, maybe doing a live show recording, or just getting to actually see everyone in person, because we all live in different places. And I think the opportunity to just see everybody in person, whether it is we're just hanging out or catching up or recording something, maybe potentially we can go to one of the cons or something, like those are the things I look forward to, is trying to see where we can go and just seeing everybody in person and giving everyone a hug, whether they want one or not, because it's going to happen for me.
It's called consent, Nicole.
Okay, fine. I guess I'll ask for a consent for a hug, but chances are I probably won't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
It is what it is. Okay, so we wrap up this show with 2 truths and a lie. So I will remind you or tell you if you didn't listen to the Emily interview. So I'm going to ask you to give me 2 truths and 1 lie. Don't tell me what the lie is. We're going to have people guess in the comments below. And then a week or so later, we'll have you reveal what the lie was and see if people could guess it or not. So give me 2 truths and a lie, Nicole.
Wow. This is
not necessarily in that order, too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. I've spoken on stage in front of 25,000 people. I have a nest egg and a trust fund that nobody knows about. And I finally got my dream car and got a Jeep.
Okay, so you've spoken on stage in front of 25,000 people. You have some secret trust or hidden nest egg. You're rich, but nobody knows it. Or you will be rich and no one knows it.
Yeah.
And you finally got your dream car, which is a Jeep.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the comments below, please let us know what you think Nicole's lie is. And again, we'll let it be known here in the coming weeks. So, all right, before we wrap up, Nicole, anything you want to say, anything you want to shout out, or give it your time to shine?
Yeah. I mean, just thank you for doing this. It's really fun. And I hope I get to interview you at the end, because, people want to get to know you too, John.
You might have to get in line. Some of the other hosts have already said, "Oh, I want to interview you. Maybe it'll just be a gang up on John session."
Yeah, maybe all of them should interview you. No, I want to again thank the listeners and people who watch our YouTube videos and people who participate in the Facebook and the Patreon. And we have a really great community of people that support us. And I know I am so grateful for that, especially being a newbie and being somebody who is not familiar with a lot of sci-fi tropes and different things. People have been really nice and accepting. And even if I say something dumb or wrong, nobody's been like a dick about it. So thank you, everybody, for being nice to the noob who is completely clueless and has no idea what's happening half the time. But also I'm just super grateful for everyone supporting us. And I really hope that as we continue to grow, we continue to get to know our fans even more, because I feel like they really make doing this worthwhile.
For sure. I could not agree more with what you said. And it's crazy to me that we still have years.
I know.
Years left. It's insanity. But
I know. And I hope we don't kill each other in those 2 years.
I don't think so. I think if we were going to kill each other, we'd have done it by now. I think we've gotten over the hump.
We'll be fine. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you again, Nicole, for coming on. This has been fun. As always, If you are not familiar and you would like to check out our Gray 17 podcast, you can find that in all the links below here on this channel. Please consider liking, subscribing, leaving comments, joining all of our socials. It's a good time.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on, and I have been John, and with me this time has been
Nicole.
All right. We'll see you next time, folks.